Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative is speaking to Grace, Soko, Havana, and Karen about Mayday, which is going to be available on demand and in theaters October 1st. Thank you all for your time.
Woo! Incredible intro.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to have you guys on to talk about this amazing film. Karen, I mean, one of the things I love about content these days is genre bending, kind of not being afraid to kind of push the boundaries. Did you know you were making a genre bending film with this, Karen?
No. I was just making a film. I was not thinking about that at all. I was just trying to tell the story in the best way I could. But genre is something we made up. We can make up new genres. They're ours to make. And I would encourage anyone to tell a story however makes the most sense to them.
Absolutely. Havana, what's going through your mind when this project comes to be, a fantasy world, a lot happening? I'm just curious what the mindset is when you sign on to a project like this.
I think my favorite part about this script was how full it was of interpretation and just how much it lent itself to personal interpretation.
Yep.
So I think that when you imagine yourself jumping into a fantasy world like this, you have to be super brave and ready for unknowns. And I think that that's sort of what ended up, I think, allowing for a really beautiful melting pot of people who are extremely brave and very powerful and also willing to take very unknown risks. And I think that that's everybody definitely on this Zoom call.
100%. Soko, a lot of people know you from your amazing music as well. This is a film. You got to be part of an incredible film with a lot of amazing people. What was that kind of transition like for you?
Well, I actually started with acting when I was 16, and then I was not getting the projects that I wanted. So I was like, I'm going to just make music and write my own things. And then as I made music and I made my own things, then people started being interested in me and offered me better parts. Fast forward to doing both, and happily so, and being in Mayday, surrounded by gorgeous, awesome, powerful, badass women. And that feels good.
Absolutely. Grace, you look at this project, you look at Nine Perfect Strangers on Hulu. These are projects that involve, they're slow burns. There's a lot happening. They're complex, a lot of mystery as well. Is it safe to say working on this film and working on projects like Nine Perfect Strangers, you're attracted to these type of kind of slow burn projects that kind of have these complex characters where you don't know the direction it's going in?
Yeah, just a complexity. And I am so drawn to that. And I think they're becoming more opportunity for that, thanks to people like Karen who create that for all of us. So I hope that continues.
Absolutely. Now, Karen, I'm intrigued because we started this interview off where I talked about the genre bending aspect of things, and you said you were just making a movie. I'm intrigued now. I just want to know I just want to know kind of the skeleton, the blueprint a little bit with, I'm sure there were some things you really want to kind of put in this film when you're kind of, even before you go and film it and everything. What's that kind of preliminary kind of first step blueprint looking for Mayday? I'm just curious with like the ideas and everything.
Well, there are a lot of ideas, but at the moment, what comes to me most is that it's a young woman's coming of age.
Yep.
And I thought of it as maybe a Wizard of Oz-like journey where she goes through a portal into another place. And the reason for that in this case was that so many women's coming of age has something to do with violence, unfortunately. And then she had to experience this inner battle within herself to save herself, to find a way back to her life. And that was the blueprint, I think.
For sure. I'm going to ask everyone this question. I am hoping we get different answers because I think there's so much to take away from this film, Star of Havana. When people get to watch Mayday, what are you hoping specifically they get out of this film?
Ooh, I think that's a fantastic question and one that I'm going to subvert for you, unfortunately. I think that the most beautiful thing about this film is its interpretability. I think I might have mentioned that before, but I think that much like all of our experiences with our own identity and womanhood and etc., I think that this film lends itself to being extremely personally interpretable. For me, my interpretation of the film may be very different than Soko or Grace's or Karen's. And I think that that's part of what drew us all into sort of a communal understanding in our first table read of really what we were making together and coming at that from so many different sides. I think that part of my favorite, I think that was one of my favorite moments is at that table read when we sort of were convening about sort of what we were making and what our different interpretations were. Everyone's was kind of starkly different. And there were overlapping elements, which I think drew us all together, but the Venn diagram still had its own petals. And I think that for me, part of what I hope for each individual person watching this is that they have access to their own petal and then are able to sort of, access the core that we all sort of put into the work. But otherwise, I hope that people have their own interpretations as they stand. I don't want to color anyone's vision of what that should be.
Pressure's on. That was a great answer.
I know. Also, I haven't heard Venn diagram since high school. It really brought me back.
Oh, sorry for the trigger.
Soko, have you thought about takeaways with this film when what would they get out of it when they watch it?
Yeah, to me, Havana's answer is very hard to beat, so I'm gonna try to make it sweet and short. To me, I see it as a very striking film about womanhood, like getting into like almost like coming of age, but like in a term of like you're like coming into your power. You're like asserting your right as a woman to exist and have your strength be out there, but also dealing with your past and trauma and coping mechanism, and how do you present yourself into the world versus how you are truly inside, and the power of sisterhood and the power of friendship and the power of togetherness, and that we are stronger together, and that it's just about finding our tribe and our people.
Grace, you're on deck right now for this question.
Come on.
I'm making it easy for you.
I'm gonna have to like make one up. That's the thing. I could make one up, and you could find a way to like justify it in this movie. Like you can find anything. I mean, I can be generic with it because I do think it provides a lot of hope, especially for young women. But also to show that there is life beyond loss and beyond trauma. And it's really hard to see it when you're in it and you are on your last legs and it's seeming like the world is coming crashing down on you. But there's an ability to reconstruct and rebuild and find that acceptance and also power to move on. And it doesn't mean that the grief and the loss and the trauma goes away, but it means that you find the power and the strength to live with it.
Absolutely. And Karen, what do you take away?
Those are all such beautiful and moving answers in so many different ways. I'll just say, for me, maybe it boils down to it's a film about not giving up on life.
Absolutely. Grace, Soko, Havana, Karen, I want to thank you all for coming on the show to talk about Mayday. I love this film. Everyone's going to get a chance to see it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Thank
you
you so much for your energy.
No
so much
problem.
energy. Thank you.
Like 10 cups of coffee talking to you.
I appreciate that. Mayday is going to be available October 1st. Until next time, this is Grace, Soko, Havana, and Karen, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.